All right, well, Ron Paul's raised some $18 million, and he's produced a new half-hour video for his campaign, and I just thought it was rather obvious how this guy really doesn't have anything. There's no program, really. There's just a bunch of veiled rhetoric. Even with all that money, they can't produce any substance. It's just a bunch of, yeah, blow it up, get rid of this, destroy that, and magically everything will be fine. And so anyway, let's go to the videotape.
Thank you. What a delight, and thank you for that very healthy, energetic welcoming. Thank you, thank you. Our campaign is all about freedom. Let me assure you, as an OB doctor and as one that has studied history and economic policy and politics for a long time, I can assure you that life begins at conception. 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 Like they do when they finance abortion, that has to stop. And the most important way that can be stopped is the reversal and the elimination of that horrible ruling. Roe versus Wade must be reversed. Government has no right. Sometimes they'll ruin a court case and say it's in the interest of the government, we have to minimize the right of the individual. I find this very annoying. Roe versus Wade must be reversed. 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 Roe versus.
I think it's very revealing that the first issue discussed and the longest issue presented in his videotape was the abortion issue. That really is a priority for him. And his rhetoric is just so transparent. I mean, he's going to assure us that life begins at conception because he's studied history and economic politics. And that tells him that life begins at conception. And he feels perfectly comfortable imposing that perception, that belief on everyone in this country. And that's fine with him. This great defender of the idea of personal liberty and freedom thinks it's okay to impose that definition, when the more obvious definition of birth and actual independence would be a much more rational definition of when respectable social life begins. He won't even give an illegal alien born in this country the rights of citizenship, and yet he's going to give them to a fertilized egg and less. Yeah, so anyway, what a pile of shit. Go one step further, he says finance abortions. We don't finance any abortions in this country publicly. The only place they are financed is internationally through Planned Parenthood and those world population control programs. So that's what he wants to abolish, is any effort to control world population, world overpopulation. And yeah, his focus is Roe versus Wade. That's the enemy. And he has actually put forth constitutional amendments in the Congress to outlaw the freedom of choice.
Many businesses now have information on us, and sometimes we give it to them voluntarily, and that is okay. It'd be all right to give our information to the airlines or to the telephone companies. But what is bad is when these businesses voluntarily give up this private information to the government, sometimes with very little force or even with a search warrant. They give this information out. Those companies then violated our right. They shouldn't be doing this. But the fact that some private companies have information on us that we voluntarily gave them, that's a different subject than when the government comes in and forces or takes that information from private sources and then puts it into government sources and uses it against us.
Obviously very pro-businesses. It's business can do whatever they want with personal information. They can, and when they violate our trust, when they do things, obviously we don't do much about it. And the real crime would be to voluntarily cooperate with government. And that's really the real joke here, is that I guess he would pass a law saying that businesses can't voluntarily cooperate with government. I don't know what his strategy would be to prevent this evil voluntary cooperation businesses have with the government. But it's just a joke. It's just obvious the guy loves business, loves big business, big brother business.
I think 9/11, quite frankly, could have been prevented if we had had a lot more respect for the Second Amendment. Freedom means self-responsibility and self-reliance. It also means you get to keep the fruits of your labor. But on 9/11, the responsibility for protecting passengers had been diverted to centralized bureaucratic government. The government told us that we would be safe, that we weren't allowed to resist hijackers, and there was a prevention for having guns on the airlines. The airlines weren't even permitted to protect their passengers and their equipment.
On this issue, I think the guy's really is certifiably insane. He won't define even what restrictions he would put on guns. Yeah, everybody get on the plane with your AK-47, everybody get on the subway with your AK-47, and somehow we're going to have a better world. Be a better world if everybody's got a big, giant gun in their hand. And then maybe a bazooka, maybe some light explosives. You know, there's nowhere he would draw the line. He's crazy. Simple fact. You know, there's plenty of gun rights in this country, and it's not an offense to have to register a gun, and it's not an offense to have to wait to get a gun, a few days. To call the existing regulations draconian and an offense to the Second Amendment is insane, over-the-top, crazy-ass bullshit. I mean, he's a nut, a lunatic, an asshole, an idiot of colossal proportion to be advocating that everybody be, you know, carrying guns. We know what's going to happen. If everybody's got a gun in their hand in New York City, you're going to have, you know, well, whatever.
Liberty means that we have freedom of choice. The right to life issue is not an issue of freedom of choice. That is a definition of life. But as individuals and as families and communities, we should have freedom of choice. One of the most important choices that we should have, and we're allowing it to slip away, is the freedom of choice to educate our children. What we need is a restatement, so make sure that homeschoolers and private schools are never attacked by our government.
Again, freedom of choice, except for women, regarding their perception of a fertilized egg. No choice there. And this idea that, you know, education, and we're attacking private schools and homeschooling. Yeah, we're not attacking any of such thing. We're attacking things like racism and fascism. You know, minimum standards. Yes, what a horror that would be to have a minimum standard for education, especially education that gets any public money. So, yeah, again, lunatic bullshit.